Avalanche.com postgame show brought to you by University Medical Center. I'm Don Williams from the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal alongside AJ Media sports editor Nick Talbot, coming to you after Texas Tech's 42-35 overtime loss Saturday to Kansas State, a loss that was extends the Red Raiders' losing streak to 4 in a row now, Nick, and was stunning in the way that unfolded.
It was almost more than stunning in the way that it unfolded. I think the big thing the fans are going to have a beef with Kliff Kingsbury today is not just that they lost in overtime, it's that they had 42 seconds left in regulation. Kliff hands the ball off to Justin Stockton for a 1-yard dive, and then they just let Nick Schumann run out the clock. I think a lot of people would say, hey, let's take a shot down the field. We got one of the best offenses in the country. We got Kiki, who has 12 catches for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns already, and a 75-yard touchdown.
Yeah, Nick, I really wonder, and Kiki after the game, Kliff Kingsbury said, Clayton Hatfield came back today, the second game that he has kicked in this year, first game back since week 2 against Arizona State, and there in the fourth quarter missed a 31-yard field goal. Could have put the game away. 35-27, Kansas State took it down and scored the 2-point conversion, got 35-35. And then again, as you alluded to, Tech had that sequence, 42 seconds left and a timeout and the ball. 25-yard line, what do you do? And Kliff Kingsbury said afterward that after seeing Hatfield miss the field goal, go in that direction, he said, we just didn't really feel good about it. And as you said, I kind of wondered, since Nick Schumann had thrown a pick-6 touchdown, second straight home game that he's done that. I wondered if he was a little worried about Nick throwing a bad pass in that situation as well. He said no, but I think that might have been in the back of his mind as well.
And you got to wonder if that kind of confidence, because you know the team wants to go for it, and then your coach just says, no, we're not going to go for it. If that lack of confidence just carries over to overtime, and then you don't perform. Because you would think the Red Raiders are set up pretty well to go in overtime. They got a great offense. Like Kingsbury said, good logic there. You have a senior quarterback. They have a freshman quarterback. In overtime, you'd think your chances would be pretty good, but it just didn't seem like the team had the moxie just to kind of win in that, especially with that last pass by Shimonek, which I don't know if he thought it was third down or not. The ball just sailed on him out of the back of the end zone. It was just inexplicable. It was just like, wow, where's that ball going?
I think it's probably just adrenaline there, but anyhow, I mean, here's the other thing though, is I think once Kansas State gets it to 35-35, you go to overtime. They have the momentum at that point, because this game should be over. Texas Tech should have already had this one tucked away and be celebrating a victory. Kansas State's happy just to still be in it, so they have the momentum there. So I think that's another reason to say you should have tried to use your 42 seconds to get it into range for something, whatever.
Yeah, because the worst thing that happens is going to be either a missed field goal or an interception. Missed field goal doesn't cost you anything because you're still going to overtime. Interception is kind of the big fear there, because then that gives them a chance. But we'll never know those things. And really, what this marks down for the Kliff Kingsbury era, I think, is going to be the big topic of the discussion, Don, because 4-5 now, 1-5 in the Big 12. You lost 4 straight. Finishing with a winning record, which we all said Kliff really had to do to keep his job at the end of the season, is going to be extremely tough for these last 3 games.
Yeah, we talked about it on the pregame show on Thursday, that with 4 games left, winning the next 2 is going to be easier than winning the last 2. You need to get Kansas State and Baylor, because TCU here and at Texas were going to be a couple of difficult assignments. So now you're going to have to pull an upset to get to 6-6. And that aside, though, I think now's the time when Kirby Hocutt may be thinking long and hard about changing coaches, because, man, this loss just defies explanation almost. When you look at it statistically, and Tech outgained Kansas State 527 to 408 in terms of yards. Then in the third quarter, the game was hanging in the balance after Nick Schumann throws the pick-6, but the Red Raiders, rallied from that. The offense got going. 15-play, 75-yard drive for a touchdown, 12-play, 80-yard drive for a touchdown. It's 35-24 with 14 minutes left in the game, and you're thinking, with Kansas State, not a very prolific offensive team, you should have this one tucked away.
You should, and even to make matters worse, Skylar Thompson was a quarterback. Nothing to take away from him, but he's the third-string quarterback going into the season.
And a redshirt freshman.
And Kansas State had 0 yards, 0 in the third quarter, and then all of a sudden they just came alive.
Yeah, Jesse Ertz, of course, is he's the Wildcats' first-team quarterback, but he's been out, injured. And then Alex Delton, the second-string quarterback, who's a good runner, he gets knocked out of the game when Colin Hill, Texas Tech's rush defensive end, hits him late, roughing the passer, hits him high, targeting ejection. That happened in the second quarter, a little bit before halftime. Bill Snyder said after the game that they initially thought Alex Delton was going to be okay. And then then the trainers or medical staff said he started to experience dizziness or some what he termed uncertainty, and so at that point they said, okay, we're not going to put him back out there. And again, when they came out in the third quarter, it looked like Colin Hill might have, in sacrificing himself, might have made the play of the game for the Red Raiders.
He really did, because they weren't getting anything going. The Red Raiders, they scored 2 straight touchdowns. They were down 24-21, came back. That was after the interception by Shimanek, and then they came back, scored the next 2 touchdowns. And like I said, Kansas State had nothing on offense going. 0 yards in the third quarter. That's just daunting, because they had more than that. They had more than 200 yards in the first half, and then of course they put up nearly 200 yards in the fourth quarter alone to come back to finish off this comeback, which is really it's just really bad for Kliff Kingsbury and for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, and I guess of course after it was 35-35, K-State takes it and sticks it in the end zone. Kansas State with hey, let's back up to the end of regulation. Kansas State makes it 30, scores a touchdown to make it 35-33, and then another point that Kliff Kingsbury was really questioned about after the game is Texas Tech used its 2 timeouts before Kansas State's 2-point conversion, which I understood that because you're trying to get the right package, the right personnel on the field to match what Kansas State is showing.
You got to win the game at that point. I mean, you got to have the right package to win the game, because if you stop that, the game's over.
Right. And so if you use those 2 timeouts, you have the right personnel. You have the personnel in there to match their offensive package and get the stop. Then everybody's celebrating and saying, great X's and O's there. And didn't work.
Yeah, they almost did. It was very close in whether or not he got the ball over the plane, but he got in, and then of course overtime.
Overtime, Kansas State takes it, has a smooth drive, touchdown. Texas Tech takes it, does not have a smooth drive, and fourth down. Nick Shimonek's pass for Dylan Cantrell was just hopelessly overthrown. Unfortunately, must have the adrenaline pumping or extra or something.
Yeah. So all that said, Don, where do you think Texas Tech kind of goes from here? Is this the end of the era? I know you made a comparison in your column today, which you can read on RedRaiders.com and LubbockOnline.com, to another era that ended.
Well, I thought today reminded me of, I had to go back 32 years to think of the Jerry Moore game against Texas A&M in 1985, where Texas Tech was down 28-21, takes it, scores a touchdown. This is in the pre-overtime days, okay? So Jerry Moore, as his offense is driving, said, the Red Raiders were a big underdog that night. Offense is driving, so he makes up his mind, we're going to get a tie out of this thing. If we score the touchdown, we're going to kick the extra point, get a tie. That'll be great because we're the big underdog. They score the touchdown, and in Jerry Moore's words, he looked at the faces of the kids on the sideline, and he couldn't just settle for the extra point kick. And so then they had to get the kicking team off, get the offense back on. Chaos ensued. They take a delay of game penalty. You're back to the 8-yard line, and they still decide to go for 2. And, of course, they came about as close as Tech did on the final pass today. And, I mean, that was a loss that just had Tech fans doing this.
But at least
Tech fans are doing it today.
Yeah, but at least today. To that credit, at least he went for the win, which is, I think the thing that bothers me most is those 42 seconds he didn't go for the win. And I think it really, I mean, you could tell the look on Kiki's face after the game that they wanted to go for the win. They were disheartened, and you just can't do that to your team. And it's just disheartening for the entire team. And that confidence has to come from the head coach down. That coach, Kliff Kingsbury, has to have confidence. 42 seconds, 1 timeout, we can get a field goal. And that did not happen. He didn't give this team a chance, and I don't think they had the confidence. And they have not had the confidence to close out games all season. You look, 29 unanswered from West Virginia. They were down by 18 points in that game. They didn't have the confidence to finish that off. They almost blew games against Arizona State and Houston. They had big leads there. Well, they got a big lead over Houston late, but then they blew that game because it came down to an onside kick, and then Arizona State was late too, and they just don't finish games here, and eventually it's going to bite you in the butt, and it did today, and it did against West Virginia.
Yeah, and so what does that mean going forward? I think Kirby Hocutt has a lot of things to consider here. I know he wants this to work out for Kliff Kingsbury, and this is a team that has, I think, quite a bit of potential next year because you can have literally everybody back on defense except for Mike Thomas among your starters.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever coaches this team next year is going to have a lot of experienced personnel to work with on the defensive side of the ball. But then you look at Jones Stadium today, and how many people were here? 25,000?
No, and
30 maybe?
I don't think there was 30, and I think that's a big telling factor about whether or not this program's going in the right direction. You look at the stands, and it's clear that you don't have any consumer confidence in this product. And that's what college football is these days. It's a product. You write about it at the end of your column. It's winning at all costs. College football. You build these sports performance centers that cost X amount of dollars. You spend all this money into it. It's a winning at all costs attitude, and the fans take it the same way too. You can see they don't have confidence in the product anymore, and I think that's the most telling thing that says this is the end of the era for Kliff Kingsbury.
At this point, he probably needs to pull a rabbit out of the hat, I think, and so that'll start next week with the Red Raiders taking on Baylor. That's the game, the annual game down in Arlington at Jerry World. Another 11 a.m. start for the Red Raiders. Then regular season home finale is 2 weeks from today against TCU here at Jones Stadium. And then the Red Raiders close it out the week after that with the night game down at Texas against the Longhorns.
Yeah, and you got to win 2 out of 3 to become bowl eligible. So you got to figure Baylor's probably the easiest win out of those now that you haven't beat Kansas State. So upsetting TCU or Texas on the road to finish bowl eligible.
So we'll be there anyhow. So keep it check daily and frequently on RedRaiders.com and LubbockOnline.com for more videos and also columns, game stories, features, notebooks, you name it. We will have it throughout the season and then some. That'll put a wrap on it for us this evening. We thank you for tuning in. For our engineer and producer, Brad Tollefson, and for AJ Media Sports Editor, Nicholas Talbot, I'm Don Williams. Thanks for watching this RedRaiders.com postgame show brought to you by University Medical Center, and we'll see you again soon.